Subscribe Squad, it's another day, it's another dollar, and it's time for us to do another interview. And today's special guest, he goes by the name of Adrian Miller. Adrian, say what's up to the people real quick.
What's up? How's everybody doing?
We're doing good, and now we're doing even better because we get to talk to you today. And so we're going to take people from the beginning, and then we're going to catch them up to everything that you're doing now. If you guys don't know who this man is, first of all, we're going to give him some points because he has like a Lauryn Hill plaque and behind him. So off top, that's winning. Like, but he is known as an exec. He manages some dope artists. You know, you might know Anderson Paak, you know what I'm saying, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't, you must be sleeping under a rock. Time to wake up. But today we're going to be discussing his journey and, you know, how he got to where he is now today. And so the question that I always start off with asking people is, when did you fall in love with music?
That's an easy one because I'm fresh back from having my father's memorial, and we had to do a lot of back story on that. So I was first really introduced to music growing up in St. Louis and being in and around my aunts, uncles, and my dad owned a record store called ABC on Kings Highway. So that was like my introduction to music, vinyl, the appreciation for the sounds that came from it, who played on what. A lot of people don't know Miles Davis, one of my favorite musicians, is from East St. Louis. So I got a chance to really early on have a pride about the makings of and the discovery and the independence of music.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. You know, we usually said a little old school with the vinyl records. A lot of people don't touch vinyl no more, so they don't know about that.
I make vinyl on everything.
Okay, that's good to know. Like I started collecting a little bit. Like I have the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I have that on vinyl. One of my favorite albums was Anita Baker, The Rapture. I have that. Of course, you gotta have Michael Jackson, Thriller. It's a classic. I think I have Stevie Wonder. What's the album with Az on it? It's the tip of my tongue, but a few records I have. And one thing I noticed as a millennial, it does sound different. It's a different sound, it's a different texture, and it almost like makes it feel a little bit more real, I guess. Because I feel like nowadays we kind of have a disconnect from the process of creating music. Like I'm an artist, like I get it. But as from a fan perspective, there is a little bit of a disconnect. We only get the final product, and I feel like because everything's digital and it's streaming, there's like a lack of appreciation of the value of how much work goes into this one song you're streaming. And so I think a good way for people to get more attached to that is to start collecting vinyl and just having that experience. Or even like for my generation, I'm a 90s baby, even like having like actual like physical CD like copies, because that's what I did for my album, was actually, you know, provide that. It's just more of a connection, I feel like, when you touch something. So I find that to be interesting. Okay, so you fell in love with music at this young age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the question that I have for you is, at what point did you say, okay, this is something that I want to be a part of professionally? Was it just a natural like incline to that decision? Was there a specific moment?
It was always I want to go back to the vinyl thing first before I answer that. So if you prefer homogenized MSG and a bunch of preservatives put into what it is you eat, I respect that. But if you like natural, you know, holistic, you know, capacity to go to your own garden and really eat healthy and be well with what you eat and get the vitamins, not supplements, the vitamins out of what it is you eat, that's what vinyl is.
That's actually a really good analogy. Okay.
So that's exactly what vinyl does for me. And if you look at any of the things behind me, I couldn't have you see Lauren without the original Biggie picture, God rest his soul, to De La. That actually does work. That's why that line goes there. Plug it in, it actually turns to the latest and greatest to try. And they're all vinyl on there for the reason of, like, I don't want to be a part of your record when it comes out. I don't want my artist on your record. If it, like, people are always like, why you always gotta have vinyl? Because it's important. It's important to me, and that's it. That's it. This is my thing. Everybody don't go through that, but I know enough DJs to send my vinyl to. So that's why it becomes a real thing. Now, why or at what point, what was your question? What was the point?
Well, at what point did you say, okay, I want to make a career in being a music exec or a manager? Or what was your thought process? Like, did you even have that in mind, or did you just kind of go for it?
No, it was a no. When we were discovering hip hop and just kind of manifesting ourselves in inserting ourselves into it, believe it or not, once upon a time, I was a hell of a dancer.
Okay.
A hell of a dancer. And I was, as they say, I was from party down. So I was always down to go to an event, a party, and dance and battle and do the whole 9 yards. So I was more of a popper than I could say I was a breaker, but I was just an all around, like, if you wanted somebody to show up and annihilate, I'm your guy.
Okay.
And just recently, which is funny, some of my friends just discovered, like, wait a minute, you're the same? Yeah, same guy. I used to eat y'all whole crew up solo as a kid. And it was the music that we danced to. Intrinsically, it went from being funk, like Cameo, Rick J, that kind of stuff, to like Double Dutch Buzz. And that being my first piece of vinyl to purchase, to saying, wait a minute, there's something going on, and we could hear it innately. We could understand that New York had this wave coming to us. And admittedly, it was, East Coast records that really started to be impounded in me as a dancer. That I was like, I just want to be a part of whatever this is. And I was always told it won't last. So don't count don't try to make this your career, because this won't last. And so I went to school, I was a history major, African history, Afro-American studies. And, my emphasis was in Egyptology, and I really wanted to understand. And it was a different era, which I feel like we're kind of coming back to. You know how clothes and trends come back?
Uh-huh.
I feel like the era of us being self-reliant, self-sufficient, self-aware, knowledge of self, not selfie, not selfish, not, you get me.
I get you.
So I feel like, I feel like the era of conscious rap is right now. And I never really left it. It was always something that was important to me. And it was the voice of us, for us. And we wanted to build not just dope music, not, MCs, not just getting money. It wasn't even about that. It was really about community, passing a lecture, piece of information, knowledge about somebody's backyard that you wouldn't have known about if you didn't understand. It was a wow moment every time somebody says something and they did it in such a way where you were just like, oh wow, KRS-One, Big Daddy Kane, Poor Righteous Teachers, PE. Like, it wasn't conscious rap and it all sounded the same.
Mm-hmm.
Conscious rap that all sounded articulately different, beautifully. It was a spectrum of the rainbow. And to be a part of that, just to say I'm down and I can wear an Africa patch, that was it. So that's what made me want to be a part of the case study. I'll call it the case study, because that's what it was for us. It was a case study, and we slowly but surely all kind of came to acknowledging this is actually something we can make $1 billion in. What? So yeah.
Okay, I'm rocking with that. So when it comes to choosing the artists that you work with now, right? What is your selection process? And what is it about these artists that made you want to attach yourself to what they have going on?
Interesting question, because I can't say I selected any of these artists. They always selected me to be the person to help their voice further. And not just me. I work with a lot of intelligent co-managers, partners, And I'm the guy who knows how to sew it all up and bring it all full circle, you know. I like integrity in the music. I like the integrity of an artist, but they always say this about artists, that artists can't be trusted and there's no integrity. You know, they get the bad rap. And as much as managers don't get, it's a thankless job. It's more, the manager's gig is known as being a thankless gig. But I also want to encourage all the artists that don't know what good management actually does for you to take a deep breath and say that there's really no music business without the business. There's plenty of music and you can throw anything out there, but you won't, you will not, I repeat, you will not ever succeed without being put to task. And if you're not put to task by your best friend, your manager, your competition, then, you know, how can you raise your bar? Mm-hmm. So just something as simple as testing you, that should be somebody that is on that end that knows what it's like to be put in scrutiny, to be criticized, to also have the capacity to take that advice from the best people to advise you and grow yourself up.
I agree. That makes perfect sense. I always tell people, you know, there's the music industry and then there's the music and then there's the music industry and there's the music business. My life motto is dream it, plan it, execute. So everybody has a dream. Half the people know how to plan, but legends and successful people execute. And so if we want to stay on kind of like that vibe, and so let's be specific. Like, let's say we're giving advice to somebody who's trying to get in the industry. What are like maybe two or three lessons that you would give them, as far as, like, I see in your background, you got a whole calendar going up. I see you're very organized, right? So,
well, I mean, you can't expect somebody to expect you to be able to save them if you can't swim. I'm a lifeguard, so
okay.
Life coach and lifeguard. I think that consistency overrules any and all things. I don't say you have to be educated, but I would recommend you don't speak for something that you're not knowledgeable of. You know, you can be a rapper or an artist that talks about what you would like to potentially do. If you're like, oh, I want to rob banks and, you know, kill and all this other craziness that people talk about and what it is they discover. I don't recommend that. It doesn't lend itself to be authentic. So I say, be consistent, be your authentic self. And, you know, for everybody that's looking to be in the business of music, pick up an instrument and learn it. Learn how to speak the language of music. It's like saying, oh, I want to go to Mexico for the rest of my life, and you don't want to learn Spanish.
Okay. I like that. I definitely like that. So let's say I was somebody and I wanted to become an A&R, right? Where would you say would be the starting? You said learn the instrument, but let's say I already learned the instrument. So would you suggest, and we're in this climate today, of actually trying to be an intern at a label, or would you say, why don't you find an artist that's in your local area, or what advice would you give to that person?
You know, everybody's path is going to be different. I always say to expand and learn and grow quick, fast, and in a hurry, which everybody in your generation is all about that business. Let's, you know, intern for someone that you admire. You know, you may not know them very well, but do your research and intern for somebody that's doing something in the business. All of our paths cross over to make success with an artist. With that, I think that it takes a village. And with that, you get an opportunity to learn what the carpenter in the village does, what the plumber does, what the cleaning person does. Everybody, you get a chance to learn when you actually go out there and do it. So the internship is an invaluable commodity.
Okay. And so I was, you know, it's interesting to tell like a layman person about, what it takes to quote unquote break an artist, or to try to explain the background behind music. Now, we've been in the industry you've been longer than me in the industry, but I know that.
How long have you been in the business?
So what is it? I'm going to my 6th year, I think. So I started, just to tell you a little bit about me, I started rapping when I was 18. I was in high school. I had college scholarships, turned that down to do music. And then it was about a year after that. That's when I had my music videos aired on 106 in Park and MTV Jams. You remember that was a whole like vibe going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I was touring with artists. Now I'm independent, and not only, you know, hosting things on the channels, interviews, reactions, as well as promoting my own music and directing as well. And I have a feature film coming out. So, you know, just going through the various stages of the industry, you know, that like there's certain routes that you could take, right? And so let's say the quote unquote industry route, it could either be getting signed to a label, trying to go the radio route. That's one thing. Then there's kind of like the indie route of like organically maybe building your fan base through touring and other avenues. And now we're in 2020, and I feel like it's a little bit of combination of everything, whether it's social media marketing, fan bases on different social media platforms, Spotify. There's a lot of different entities, right? And so me having gone through several different routes, I understand, you know, the financial aspect, but behind breaking an artist, right? And so when I sit here and I tell somebody, like, if you're going to go to the traditional route, even labels and A&Rs will say it'll take anywhere from 200,000 to 500,000 to potentially break a new artist from scratch. People look at that and like, how, what? Oh my gosh, right? And sometimes those particular artists end up making less money than artists who are independent, who may have less awareness or less fan base. Like I tell people all the time, I know people who are quote unquote YouTube rappers who sell out tours. The average person, if you walk into a Walmart, is not going to recognize them, but they're financially successful and their music is reaching people. So the advice that I would ask you to or just maybe even your opinion about the climate of today's industry when it comes to breaking an artist and when it comes to having your artist reach certain platforms. Like, what is your opinion on that?
Well, let me talk it back for a second, because I like how you can articulate getting to your point. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I also want to lend this voice, because all too often I hear, oh, I could do it myself. Doing it yourself is hard. I mean, it's less than anything. You could probably open up a mortuary quicker and make more business, because people die every day. Being a record label is very, very simple, but being able to be a recognized one is a whole different capacity. I always try to recommend to people that you seek out like real people who do it and get the consultancy you need. You know, setting up business is fundamental, but being a company that actually has some sort of staying power in grounds, that's a whole different capacity. I do that as a service for the artists that I work with. And it's important because I want to empower. It's important to me because I really want them to take a bite out of both sides. And so you have to take baby steps first and foremost. And it goes back to me saying you have to be consistent. So, you know, you won't hear me say, okay, this is the secret sauce on how I do it, because you would have to take an internship for that one. But I think my rule of thumb is really about making sure that in that conversation of it takes a village, that, you know, if you have access to cash or capital, like any business, that's going to help you. But let's just take it over to the tech industry. You hear about, and it's so many companies you don't hear about getting angel seed investment, getting the first round, the second round, whatever, the financing of or the funding of a potential new business model based off of something that's unproven. You know, people get millions of dollars to go out of business. So for you to be competitive in the spirit of the majors who've been here forever and a day, for you to compete with them, yeah, you have to have a lot of capital. You have to have savvy. You have to have contacts and relationships. You must have the finished product that's worth it. And, you know, I'm not here to say, oh, it's got to be better than Anderson's. But for him to be competitive, he's got to be as good, if not better, than the next thing. What I like to think is that he has his own lane, and that, you know, intrinsically, he kind of has created his own kind of like leverage with respect to that. But I don't know that there's a formula for success other than you have to continuously be moving forward. And every time you move forward, you might get kicked back 2 steps. It is a jockeying for position sort of seesaw. And, you know, all I have known is work really hard, be fanatic about the work that you put in, and put the pressure on when it's the right time. I don't really understand any other way to do it. But you also keep in mind, I'm not out here doing real estate deals left and right. I can't tell you the market on that. I can actually tell you the market on what we do here. And it goes without saying that a lot of people would like to consider themselves the authority. I'm a bit of an economist. You know, I speak with the economist of our business. Like one of my really dear buddies was recently, he was just the former economist for Spotify. And he and I talk regularly. His whole thing to me is like, when do you sleep? And I'm like, sleep is the cousin of death. Don't sleep.
Hey, bars. You got to know the Nas bars. Hey.
You know, so I also encourage people to know the history, because I can rattle off like this all day long with you. But historically speaking, I know that Nas was discovered by Large Professor, you know, not just because I'm a Large Professor fan, but because I was around when that happened and I paid attention and I cared enough to want to be in, you know, this whole disdain for someone else's music, or the lack of support for one another. Like you can probably look on your line, your own personal feed when you do a release and see the people who you actually deal with and those that you know you deal with and support you back, and be able to gauge whether or not they're actually doing their part of just being a friend. And I think we're not just friends in this business, we're family. Albeit competitive to my second cousins and whatever, we are always connected. And that's why when you put a record out, you're just adding to that braid, that thread. You are as much of a griot and as much as a storyteller, and is as important as a person who did it ages before. So it's all like this DNA. It's somewhere along the line, someone's going to figure out the formula of why it exists the way it does. And then that will be a better understanding of what it takes to be successful. But is there a dollar amount? I disagree. Is there a competitive dollar amount? Oh, you know, you can do that just by quantum theories. You can just look and see, oh, such and such spent this, that spent, I should spend this, and on and on and on. And a lot of people think of that as Puffy's mantra. But you know, I know Puff or Diddy. Sorry, call him Puff.
What day? Depends on the name.
Yeah, Love, Dr. Love, whatever he's doing. I really respect him, but I know he didn't just pay his way to the top. He did things that he saw lanes in, and you know, not to mention Frank White behind me, who, by the way, is my favorite rapper.
Okay, I that.
Yeah, being from LA, everybody's like, "Oh, you like an East Coast rapper? Shut up! It's not no East Coast." Again, we are one big family. I might learn more from somebody down south about what I'm supposed to know, but I might learn something else from someone in Senegal rapping. So I'm paying attention. I'm just like, there's no one way to skin a cat here.
I agree. And I also feel like everybody has to find the path that's for them, because one person's lane may be just, a better market for that person. That's the audience. I always say, like, for me, make the music, find the audience that fits that, and then you attack the audience and you can continue to grow with that audience. And if you want to expand, continue to expand, and so forth and so on. But I think you touched on the fact that the number one key is just consistency in attacking it. You talked about how, the music industry is one family. So I want to build on that branch in the sense of, where we're at in today's time with the recent deaths of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. I always feel like it's a mix and a match between culture, imitating art, and art imitating culture. And so I wanted to know, like, how did those, deaths and the movement affect you? And then moving forward, like, how do you feel like that's going to show up in whether it's your artists that you represent, art, or just in general?
Again, I take this back to my starting point of being in a movement that was pro us. It spoke to us. We knew about the way injustices were going on in the music. Before Rodney King, it was fuck the police. And it wasn't like it was so off-putting. They were saying something so left of center. No, they were saying something that was the sentiment. And it wasn't fuck the police because all of a sudden police were just beating on people for no reason. Let me give you the other side of the science, because people forget. With COINTELPRO, with the way drugs were put into South Central Los Angeles, I can speak on this because my cousin is Freeway Rick. There was a litany of craziness. People weren't just selling crack to unknown individuals, they were selling it to their own people.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have blacks selling, crack on a regular basis to Latinos. You didn't have Latinos selling it to blacks. But you had it all over the hood, all over LA. And not just LA, it grew all over the world. But when cocaine was most easily accessible, now there are no coca plants in South Central LA. So we weren't growing it here. I think everybody knows where it was coming from. I'm not going to be the guy who says, oh, did you not know this information? I'm going to be the guy that says, back to fuck the police, who happens to be the biggest gang, bigger than the Bloods and the Crips, and more organized. Fuck what you heard. The police were like, wait a minute. The government put a whole thing into play and forgot to let the police know how to police it. Can you imagine robbing a bank and forgetting to tell the getaway driver that we are robbing a bank? A, you're putting his life in jeopardy. So you're putting the police lives in jeopardy. B, you don't plan on cutting them in on the deal? No, their salaries didn't go up. So you had the undercurrent, and I'm not going to get into, wait a minute, I'm going to step away really quick to grab this, because this is going to solve a lot. And I represent the author, so it's only right. And if you can't read this, this says, Once Upon a Time in Compton.
Okay, let's check it out.
By Tim Brannan, Robert Ladd, and the words are written by Lolita Files. I manage Lolita Files. She's an amazing author. But that is one of a million stories of policing done right from the wrong. That gets us to fuck the police. That gets us to an overversion of criminal enterprise and activities that aren't just black on black or brown on black or brown on brown or black on brown. I can go into so many. This is such
we
a
could
deep,
be in this. I
don't know if I'm the guy to ask that question, because I will start to give you so many factual opportunities to break it down. Let's just say if the police had been told what the plan and strategy was, maybe, because we all know that the feds are not given information from the CIA. And the CIA don't talk to local police. So when you have the CIA talking to the hood, there's a disconnect. You feel me? With the policing. And, do I think that we should have people policing our community? Yes. Do I think that our community should be policed by individuals that don't live there? That's a no. We're not if we are in a zoo, maybe.
Now that's an analogy. That is an analogy right there. If we was in a zoo, I feel like
I would have to accept the fact that that's the way it goes if we were in a zoo. But right now, we're not in a zoo. Last I heard, we were free to move about the plane. And so I encourage any and all when they get the opportunity, because the Black man is the foundation and strain, little do we know. And I was told this by being able to acknowledge it through my music. Through my music, I gained knowledge of self through music. A glossary of understanding who I was. And I got a real chance to see it on a global scale. So the pullback for me was, oh, they really fuck with American Black men everywhere else on planet Earth but America.
mm-hmm.
Gotta get out of here. Gotta go. And you don't stay put too long because we are nomadic by nature. We are not supposed to just stay put. Now, we get into philosophical indifferences and all that other stuff, but like I said, I just know music.
I like that. It's full circle. You brought that back full circle. What's next for you? What's your plans for the rest of the year? Anything we should know about?
Have you been able to look at the site?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, I challenge you to check out 5-letter Zion Inc. And Zion is XYION, not ZION.
Okay.
And the reason is XYION because the X and Y generation I own.
Okay, I get it. XYON. I own. Little play, little pun. All right.
Back even more because I don't know if you got me yet. Ready?
Hit me with it.
You familiar with the Matrix?
Yes, but I'm not gonna say I'm in a deep dive, but I'm familiar.
Where were they going?
Originally, I don't remember. Where were they going?
Zion.
Oh, okay. I get it. All right.
Who saved Zion?
Was it the Nero dude who saved, or himself?
Mr. Anderson, I presume.
Oh, okay. All right. Look, I'm a 95. I've seen the movies, but I told you I would tap. Now, if you would have gave me a Westworld quiz, we would have been good.
He's violent.
Oh my goodness. I'm
call for. Jeffrey Wright is one of my favorite artists. So what's new for me is I'm music supervising. I am doing some really interesting and innovative partnerships. My brother created the Silicon Blockchain Society, and I'm an avid blockchain miner into cryptocurrency, the whole 9 yards. I believe that the world power comes through the capacity to invent and advent more ways of trade and value. And value props come in so many different ways, and that's why there's so many different coins and so many different trades. So, I keep up with, global warming like I do global trade. The World Health Organization is as important to me as it is to know what's happening up the street. So I pay attention. I'm growing the management firm, and I have a very exciting reveal coming for a group that I'm involved with. And, you know, just on the talent roster side, I took a step back last year on the day-to-day for Anderson and opted to run the business that we started together, which is OBE, Outer Body Experience. And I'm loving that. But then I got pushed back into the full-time thing with Mereba, who I'm super proud of. She's on Interscope. Her music is every bit of what would be expected of Miss Hill nowadays. You got from her. Full frontal. If you haven't heard her music, please listen up. Working full-time now, managing Pooh Bear.
Okay.
The producer that did all of Justin Bieber's Changes album. He's got a solo project coming out with development. And I try to do my best in developing businesses with the artists I work with, not just run their businesses. So that's, you know, something very important for me, is to be able to, you know, do the each one, teach one thing and have them really off to the races. And, you know, it's in real time. So it's a case study and a case by case basis. I wouldn't say it's the easiest job in the world, but it gives me something to do with my time. I have a partnership with Omas Keith that I'm super proud of. We call that company A Tiny Universe.
Okay.
And you can't see it in here, but I have a Far Side plaque upstairs that I'm super proud of, because I helped those guys get on back in the day. I was one of the, you know, the team leaders in getting them signed and moving their career forward. But I'm working with the company that they signed to. It's called Delicious Vinyl.
Okay.
I partnered with Mike Ross and Leslie Cooney, and we created the Caribbean and Africa diaspora label called Delicious Vinyl Island. So if you're Caribbean and looking for an opportunity from, you know, a handshake situation, we're right there to help ones that we think are dope. And in 18 months, we probably did like 26 videos.
Wow.
So, you know, I'm all about manifesting destiny. I love the people that I work with. I get a chance to do something that I'm passionate about. And this, you know, people be like, you know, he don't go past this point. This is my norm, talking how I'm talking to you. So.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the rawness and the realness. Shout out your socials real quick.
My social security number is, because I'm I hate you with the cool with me. Here in order of my GoFundMe. No, so. I'm usually just best to find on Twitter or Instagram, and my Twitter handle is Adrian Miller. My Instagram, I stopped posting on Instagram, but I do post on the stories, and I do respond. My new campaign is Life Inc. Rainbow. My Instagram is Adrian_Miller. The Twitter is one word, Adrian Miller. The other one is the _Miller. So I say that because, but you should, you know, check out the OBE socials, Anderson's socials, Zion Inc. You can go to zion.com. I mean, you know, whatever. I try to keep it all fundamentally in one place, but who can? It's too much.
Too much.
Oh, BAG released their album on Friday. Blimes Brixton and Gifted Gab. Super proud of their product. It's quality. Being an MC, a FemC, you are going to love it.
Okay, I'm gonna peep it. I will peep it.
Oh yeah, I mean, understand, I don't have any interest in being a part of anything that's not sick to death, and this one is hollering. So I'm super excited about that. Mereba released her Heatwave video. It's an acoustic she released a song for the acoustic version of Heatwave for her in Black. Okay. Mereba is actually a part of Spillage Village. That's out. Their new single, End of Days, just dropped. Cairo Ade dropped his song, Fire in the Streets, with Cam Archer. I got so much music.
Yeah, that's a whole lot. Well, we're so happy we had a chance to talk to you here on the show. You heard it here. This is, you know, our brother, Adrian Miller. Make sure you check out everything that he has going on. And we will catch you guys next time.